and gentlemen, welcome to Internet 2.0 Conference Dubai Edition. My name is Nishpreet and I am going to be your host for the next 3 days here in the Internet 2.0 Conference. So, welcome. Now, we had a blast in our spring edition. I don't know how many of you were there, but it was amazing. And we have returned to Dubai even bigger and even better. We are honored to have award-winning technologists, C-suite executives, startup founders, and pioneers from many tech disciplines amongst us today. And during these 3 days, our sessions will walk you through every development in the tech sector, including advancements in the AI field and cybersecurity issues. So I hope you guys are excited, and we've got refreshments outside, so we're going to be taking a lot of breaks in the middle so that you don't get tired. So keep refueling on coffees and food and snacks to keep us going throughout the day. So yes, the Internet 2.0 conference is going to be jam-packed with interactions and a lot of learning opportunities. Before we get started, I would like to thank our platinum sponsor, Crypto Clue, who is represented here today by CEO and co-founder Karina Rapchin. We truly appreciate your commitment and generosity, so thank you. Now to our fantastic audience, to you all, please, if you do post anything on social media, use the hashtag Internet2Conf for any tweets, any posts, anything on social media. Alrighty, so let's start. First up is our fireside chat for day one, which is going to be on the subject of predictions and expectations from immersive technologies. Now, immersive technology is what alters users' digital experience through sight, sound, and even touch. It is crucial for businesses to achieve client interactions. Okay. All right, so I would like to welcome on stage Amer Atiah, CEO of Solvait, and Dr. Reji Thomas from Group CTO at VIRENXIA to come up on stage for our fireside chat. Thank you very much.
So Amer, it's good to see you. How was your journey to Dubai?
Hello. Yeah. It was great. Thanks, Dr. Reji. Great to meeting you, and good to see all in the lobby here.
Good. So I think we have about 45 minutes for the session. So let's start with a basic introduction of ourselves, and then I think both of us have made some presentation we can show everyone, and we'll go to the rapid fire question and answers. So why don't you introduce yourself, Amer? I know about you, but what about all in the audience?
Great. Thank you so much, Reji. So this is Amer Atiah, and I'm actually the CEO of a company called Solvait. I'm the founder as well. This is how you get a CEO position easily. So yeah, Solvait is actually an IT company that is specialized in human capital management that we have built on top of Microsoft Dynamics 365. Microsoft Dynamics 365 is a business solution that is, that is being provided to the world. Basically, we exist in Saudi. The majority of our business is in Saudi, like 85%. Is in Saudi, although we have other customers in UAE, Qatar, Oman, and almost everywhere in the region. And I've been into this business since 10 years. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'm Dr. Reji Thomas, and I call myself a technologist, but I've dabbled in multiple fields. I'm a veteran from the Indian Navy. I spent 20 glorious years in the Navy. And in this time, I had the fortune of traveling the world, coming across frontier technologies all over. I've also flown, I'm also a pilot. I've flown 777s. It's a very amazing aircraft, and which uses a lot of immersive technologies that we're going to speak on today. And learning is something I really continue to this day. I'm past 50 years, and this learning is only made so that I can do something for society, contribute to society, help those in need. And that was the whole aim of studying all the time and unraveling, especially in the areas of quantum science in which I specialize. So, Amer, I think I will start with a presentation from my side, and then we'll hand it over to you. Sounds good?
Thank you. All the best, Dr. Reji.
Well, everyone thinks immersive technology is something very new. Trust me, it has been there since 4 to 5 decades. In fact, 1957, we still had immersive technology. Immersive means the user gets a complete experiences where all his senses of sound, touch, smell, he gets a complete experience of what's going on around him. And he's able to contribute much more than what he simply reads through a simple text. It was this experience of understanding immersive technology, which, again, a typical misnomer is that people think immersive is just 3D glasses. So it's the endeavor of Amer and myself to really explore which are the areas where immersive technology has been contributing and will contribute in the near future. Just to put things in perspective, we have various forms of reality. Now, what is reality? For example, I may see a particular color as black. Amer may see it as dark blue. Both of us are right because we are seeing reality based on what our senses are telling us, based on our genetic structure, our eyesight, our knowledge, standard of knowledge. We have come to an idea of reality. So a big conundrum here is that reality is very different for different people, but they all mean the same thing. You are able to understand me because I'm speaking English, but if you speak a different language in reality, you may lead to a clash. So you can see from this screen, there are different forms of reality. We have virtual reality. Typically, you know, the ones they wear with 3D glasses, you enter movie theaters, you get an immersive experience. That's what they tell you in 6D. Then we have something known as augmented reality, where you get one layer on top. A mix of all this is mixed, and the whole gamut of reality, which we will talk about later subsequently, is extended reality. So 5G is an environment we in Dubai have been having it for many years, and now many cities in the world are getting the 5G plus experience. It is very important for a very good bandwidth to get something which is extended reality. And if you see the different types of scenarios in the military, for example, every fighter pilot goes through extended reality in his training. When I was trained at London, I was given a very visual appeal of what goes on in a Boeing aircraft. For example, there are various emergencies which you face in the air, which you actually have to downplay and face on the ground. And those realities can only be made with an extended reality situation on a simulator. Because the more you train in peace, the more you're able to perform and save our souls during emergencies in the air. In healthcare, for example, nowadays we have surgeons who can actually perform keyhole surgeries sitting in another city. This is not fiction. We have had that 15 years ago, where a surgeon sitting in China was able to operate a patient sitting in France. We had business, for example, you can actually conduct virtual businesses. In tourism, you see, during COVID, everything fell apart. We all know that. But if we had actually immersed in the field of understanding extended reality at that time, we could have had virtual tourism. For example, I want to travel to Turkey. The first thing I will go is I will have an immersive experience of Istanbul or Ankara or various cities. How do I feel there? How do I feel in a saltwater bath? Things like that can only be felt and experienced when you have an experience of an XR. Construction, you can actually construct various 3D models now of how a skyscraper will look. We have the Burj Khalifa, we have a Burj Khalifa Plus, which is coming out now, which is even bigger. So if you have to have a cluster of how the building is going to behave during, let's say, an earthquake or let's say a calamity, this is the only field you have to have an immersion experience. If you look at entertainment, entertainment is now a different ledger altogether. We have various entertainment where even the smells, the touch, the vibration, all that can be experienced as you play and actually are with the actors at their scene. Let's move a little forward. Let's come to some predictions. KPMG had done a wonderful exercise, and they went to the top people in the industry and they said, what do you feel is the future of this immersive experience? So various people have said, for example, 2026, Mars rover, all of us will be there, because when the astronaut sets foot, all of us will be setting foot too, together with him. That can only be possible with immersive technology. If you have, let's say, any real estate, suppose I want to buy a house in Spain. I may not be able to go to Spain and check out at Barcelona how the real estate is, but I can, in my living room, actually take a tour of what it is to live in that space of real estate where I will be in Barcelona. Saving money, time, you can visit virtual real estates all over the world and actually make a very good decision, which will not be biased based on external stimuli. 2030, it's not too far away. It may be 2020 to 2030. All these screens that we have, the televisions, any other screen, will all be en passe. It'll all be a screen which we will see in front of us as a liquid display. We already have that, in fact, in Vogue, but everything will be immersive. Everything will be something that we experience ourselves. We go in an aircraft, we travel in a car, you'll be able to see an immersive experience. We have many, many automobiles. In fact, Dubai, you can see the best of automobiles in the world that are running on the roads here. And you'll have the windshield, which will give you every single parameter, what goes on, without, of course, actually disturbing your cognitive sense of seeing what is around you. We have various other forms, for example, customer service. Everybody knows customer service is tough. Everybody knows to give an experience in a hotel industry, service industry is tough. But if you give the customer an immersive experience, trust me, the ratings of the customer service based on various surveys, they will be much, much better. So you can see here the various interfaces which are really coming into the screen. The human-computer interface. I can tell you about nanorobots, which we have been designing. I was fortunate to study in some wonderful universities like Stanford. So in one of the universities, we were designing nanorobots, which are actually being able to understand our thoughts and put it into reality. Just imagine, you don't have to press any button. Our thoughts can be taken by nanorobots and transformed into reality. How's that? And we are looking at 2030 again, where this will be turning commercial. As you know, every technology goes through technology readiness levels from 0 to 9. That's the NASA scale. So nanorobots presently on the technology level is 2.5. By 2030, it'll be around 7 to 8. It can turn commercial. Anything above 5 is commercial. Artificial intelligence is something we've been hearing day in and day out. AI is something that is ingrained, ingressed inside the metaverse. So let's see. Within 10 years, what we predict is that we will be waking much more in the 3D world. Much, much, much more than what it is at this present world. The physical world will lose its real charm because the physical world is always got a bias. Depending on how the sun is, depending on the external stimuli, if you have to have a real experience, an unbiased experience, you have to spend more time in the 3D world. And that will be able to be recalled only with the help of immersive technology. In fact, I just met a student here. He's come all the way from India, from Vellore Institute of Technology. I have something very interesting for students. No longer do you have to learn by rote. All along our careers, we have to cram textbooks. A to Z. Whatever you are able to cram, you are able to replicate in the examination. The advantage here is there is absolutely no cramming because everything is available to you. We can have children of the age of 5 who can actually simulate and work the way Einstein did. How's that? The world is very different in this field of immersive technology. It is not something that is just 3D glasses. Every single area of technology has been influenced by the space. Now, we all know the internet and how unsafe it is. You can multiply the safety factor by 5 to 10 times if you go into the metaverse world, if you see the immersive world. Data privacy, regulations, one's consent being available, that is a big issue that we have in terms of regulations. That is something we will need to solve because the metaverse is something that is quite fluidic. We are moving from Web 2 to Web 3 and beyond. But if we don't have regulations in space, if we don't have rules in space which everyone agrees to, it is going to lead to catastrophe. So these are the challenges. And I would always say when you go to a challenge, you need a problem statement. For example, in my company, we want to solve the problems of farmers on the ground. So our problem statement was, what do we do? How do we solve it? So we made the world's first portable soil, water, and carbon test kit. The farmer is immediately able to get the soil, water, and carbon test kit. Nobody in the world has been able to do it before. VIRENXIA did it because we saw a problem statement. And this we quantified with the help of data volume and standardization. If VIRENXIA makes a technology, it has to be understood, followed, accepted by the whole world. We can't live in a cocoon. So the central rule is whatever that we learn, whatever that we imbibe, whatever that we have new, that has to be accepted by the global population. So our behaviors in a virtual world, privacy is something I've already talked about, but our behavior in a virtual world, there's also a small danger to it. For example, I'm traveling from place A to place B in an immersive environment. Anybody else will be able to understand what is my psyche, what colors I like, what are my tastes, where do I normally go, who are my friends, what is my health, how am I feeling, how can I be influenced. Marketeers will try and see what are his weak points. Does he like wine? Does he like travel? So that is something, again, which we need to follow. We need to create something like a virtual private network inside the immersive world. That's, again, a big, big issue. And that is something we have been trying to do. In fact, many universities in the world have been dabbling with this issue. It's not that immersive technology could not see commercial traction before. It has not seen commercial traction before only because of privacy issues and laws and regulations. For example, you're building an engine. Building an engine is a very, very tough job. Ask me. It requires 40, 50 years of research, high altitude testing, component testing, stress fatigue testing. Not many countries can actually do it. The whole concept of building an engine can be 1/10 of its original time if you use this technology. Anything in construction, anything in simulation, then aircraft, we all traveled in air travel. It's a very complicated piece of machinery. It's like in a 777, we have 6 methods of failure. Numerous number of wires which are going on and around as far as the Earth to the moon. That's the kind of wiring that we have in a typical modern-day combat aircraft or a transport aircraft. All that experience can be shortened. All that experience can be halved or made 1/10 if you use XR tools or mixed reality or holograms. There are many pseudoscientists here who say that we are actually living in a hologram. Many people say that the reality that in which we are living in the physical world is not existing. How's that? But trust me, as a quantum scientist, this is the reality. The reality is that all that we see is nothing but a virtual reality. It is actually not existing, but it exists. And it's also known in the quantum field that we are living in multiple universes. This is one universe that we are seeing each other, but maybe 1 centimeter away, there are multiple universes. So this field of augmented technology, virtual reality, immersive technology, that is something that is already there in quantum science. In 2030, I don't predict that we'll have these Ray-Ban, Ray-Fathers kind of glasses. Everything will be there inbuilt inside the cornea, inside the chip, and the surgery to take place will be in a few minutes. Everything will be there inside it. For example, you don't have to wear a physical Fitbit to track how your health is. There'll be a small chip with the help of an instrument, you put it inside your skin, and that can monitor everything about your health. So real-time holoportation is something that is, again, going to be a reality. For example, we've all seen Captain Spock, we've seen Star Wars, we've seen teletransportation where you're able to transport matter. All that is going to be a physical reality. In fact, we had some wonderful experimentation. We were able to replicate an animal with consensus to a distance of 5 meters completely. So there's a lot of happening in the world in terms of even holotransportation, hologram transportation, or teletransportation. Again, head-mounted displays. Many of us are averse to wearing something on the head because they say it's irritating. So to do this, presently, if I want to tour my Indian factory, I have to wear this kind of a display and wear some sensors. Our prediction is, in a few years from now, everything will be within central integrated in the body. You no longer have to carry mobile phones, 2 and 3, which you carry on the body. Everything will be integrated in the helicon, in the visual cortex, which will be integrated inside the brain with the help of nanobots. So I will always say data is complex. And especially synthetic data, the data that we generate with the help of this technology, that will be very, very complex. And the amount of data will be humongous, huge. Because every single bit of your existence generates multiple gigabytes of data, which is constantly going and evolving. So storage technologies has not kept pace with this. The day we go high in storage, we'll be able to understand meta-transported data in a much better manner. Another very interesting, I visited Belgium and London just last month. I went to some frontier companies and I was pretty surprised to see in a C-level, they have a chief metaverse officer. It's something new that I learned. It shows the importance that companies have given to this concept. You always had CEOs, CTOs, CXOs, chief metaverse officer. So it shows that companies are looking forward. Maybe they're not revealing what is happening inside the company because much of this is hidden science. So this is a reality that we'll have in every company where I'm trying to give these examples to show this is already part and parcel of who we are. It's already there. And if you look at the near future, we'll have kids who are brilliant, who have the brain of Einstein. Einstein clocked 161 on the Mensa test. We'll have kids who will clock the same amount all the time, every time. So that's a huge possibility that mankind, with the help of the IQs that we'll have in society, will be able to learn, grow, and evolve at a much faster pace. Another thing I wanted to always mention was the golden triangle. So I will say simulation, AI, and physics. These are very, very important in the golden triangle to make a prediction or to understand and take science to the next part. So when you read a book, you read about 10%, you recollect about 10% of it. And typically, if you go to a lecture, 20-25% is what you can assimilate. But when you experience a book, you can remember about 80-90% of it. That's the difference. That's the difference immersive technology can create and cause to this whole thing. So always I will say, living inside the extended reality is a complex topic because we, in a physical body, interact with other bodies with the help of a technology which is haptic. Haptic means something that you can feel and touch. And you also have to remain anonymous. This is the problem. How do you remain and safeguard your anonymity without revealing your identity in the metaversic hologram? The day we do that, I feel that we'll grow much, much ahead in terms of who we are, what we can do, and how we can take societal consciousness to growth, and together where we can thrive together and collaborate together to take mankind to the next quantum heralding of science. I think I'll give it to you, Amer. You can take it forward.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Reji. That was so much informative. So again, my name is Amer Atiah, and this is my email, just in case anyone wanted to just send me an email for any reason to buy our systems or whatever that is. So I'm not going to take much of your time. Hopefully within 10 minutes, I'll be able to recap. And yeah, we're going to talk about immersive technology now. So in December 8th, in this December, one of my daughters, Amira, she had a birthday, and her older daughter, 9 years old, her name is Naya, she actually wanted to give her sister a gift. And can you imagine, anyone can imagine what kind of gift this little kid has given her daughter? Can anyone think of any gifts from, you know, a small kid, 9 years kid to another 8 years kid? What's that? Other than Barbies. Yeah, that was the old school. Any suggestions? Well, that's a smart choice, but no. What else? NFT, no, but we're almost there. Yeah, something like that. So what she has done is that she actually developed a game on top of something called Roblox. I'm sure if you have heard of that, if you're having kids or you like video games. So what she has done is that she has developed a game without the help of no one, actually, although I'm a computer engineer and her mother is a computer engineer too. But she has developed a game and she has given her that game as a birthday gift, and she actually tried to use it. And what she has done is that she also invited the whole family to play that game in that day. So we gathered at 9 p.m. at that time, and myself, my father, my mother, and my brother in the States, my sister in Sweden, and the whole family gathered actually to play that game. There was some bugs for sure, but basically that's the new world, and this is one of the ways to have an immersive technology. And I believe everyone has already lived in the immersive technology, or we are about actually to live in the immersive technology. So Dr. Reji mentioned so many examples about media tech, about health tech, about any business tech, any X tech actually, in which immersive technology, VR, AR, XR will be used, and there was so many good examples in that. So one of the very special things about metaverse, about VR, about AR, and about the immersive technology is that it has no limit. So when you think of our life now, it has so many limitations, and these limitations are taken by granted. You don't think of these limitations now. For example, if you think of a gravity, if you think of how tall you are, for example, if you think of how strong you are, if you think of how to move, how to transfer yourself or anything that you have from one place to another place, you always have to think of within these limitations. Now, the beautiful thing about the metaverse and about the these technologies, like, for example, in general, the immersive technology, is that it has no limit. So even the sky is not the limit. You have no limitation in your ideas, in your imagination, in what you need to do, or you might be able to do with this technology. So it's not only about, taking what we have, for example, what we have as limitations, like, for example, cars technology and airplane technology. You move from an A to 1B, yes, faster, yes, maybe more comfortable. However, by the end of the day, you have to apply some of these restrictions, but not anymore in the metaverse, not anymore in the immersive technology. And you can think now or later how these technology would change, and not only change, actually, it will flip the table on the current world, on the real world. I can think of the metaverse, I can think of the immersive technology as the new internet. Suppose you wanted, or if I ask a question, who would basically go back in time to 1995, maybe when the internet started or something like that, and leave a touch in that world that has not only connected the world, but has made that tremendous changes to our lives. So if you, for example, go to the internet, if you go to Google now and you typed, for example, the market size of the internet, there is nothing called internet actually market size, because internet is simply everything in the current world. It's exactly the metaverse. It's exactly the immersive technology. So we are now in the period of time where there is that big thing, that tremendous, that huge thing coming up that will affect everything in our life. And yeah, it's as big as the internet. Now, I'll give you an example from manufacturing, for example, perspective, just to see how immersive technology can change life, can reduce cost, can empower, for example, businesses, empower employees, empower individuals, empower everything and everyone. So, for example, you wanted to design, or you're a manufacturing and you wanted to design that big or huge, for example, tool to cut, for example, steel, or to do some machinery stuff. Now, from designing perspective, you can do that with the help of augmented reality and with the help of virtual reality, and see and almost feel what's happening with that machine before you even start manufacturing it. And you start testing it and testing the design and sharing it with other engineers, for example, in order to have that sense of feeling to that machine. Think of that, how that should reduce millions of dollars in only one transaction for one factory, maybe, or for one machine. This is not only for design, but also in sales. You go to a conference, you cannot grab that amount of, or that big machine with you to display it, for example, in the conference or in the exhibition. So all what you have to do is to take these glasses with you and these hand tools and basically hand them to the people to your leads, basically, who are interested to see the machines. Not only in sales, but also in training. You can train your employees, train your team, or train the laborers in the manufacturing factory, for example, to use that machine before even you buy it. Again, think of how much, millions of dollars have been saved only for one type of transaction. That's a simple, idea about how you can, for example, utilize immersive technology in businesses. These are some numbers that I have taken from McKinsey & Brothers and company, and I'm sure everyone knows McKinsey, the analyst. So in 2021, $13 billion, that is $billion with a B, have been invested only by VCs and private equity funds in immersive technology and in metaverse, which is part of the immersive technology. In 2021. In 2022, $120 billion have been invested so far in this year. Can you imagine the difference and the growth that has taken place from 21 to 22, it's expected that the industry of the metaverse will reach up to $5 trillion. That's trillion with a T. It's a phenomenon, basically, how you can think of how big that thing is. Now, I have another slide that shows you how these $5 trillion have been almost calculated, and just to give you an idea. But let's see now how these technologies have affected, or how in 2030, for example, this will affect consumers and businesses. We're talking about B2C and B2B. And as you can see, for example, in B2C world, one of the main, industries that will get affected by a metaverse and by immersive technology is e-commerce, let's say, gaming, ads, education. You already can go to game, and I'm not talking, by the way, about gaming only. I'm talking about every aspect in our lives. For example, again, when you go into a video game, you can see ads, for example. You can purchase items. It's already there. We're already in the metaverse world. And also at the enterprise use cases where discrete manufacturing, banking, media, telecommunications will get affected by the metaverse or by the immersive technology. Now, speaking about the $5 trillion industry by 2030, how this has been calculated or how this money have been generated. It was generated by a collaboration between different technologies at all levels. We're not talking about special technology here, or we're not talking about, for example, a specific system or a specific app or a specific industry. We're talking about medtech, fintech, like security tech, whatever tech the metaverse will cover. So, for example, when it comes to the enablers, there will be a multi-billion dollars industry only in payments, which is a or tenth of the section when it comes to the metaverse. You can see a new ways of payment, a new payment methods, a new asset stores, for example, for payments. In security and identity, there will be like identity management, privacy management, governance, data governance, for example, management, and new technology that will come across in order to cover the needed requirements in that industry. In infrastructure and hardware, you can think of the cloud, for example. You can think of 5G, 6G, Wi-Fi 6, for example. All these new technologies will help the metaverse, and metaverse will help, for example, to evolve and to develop. Again, we're talking about billions, if not trillions, dollars of businesses in that area. Infrastructure, platform to create and develop that 3D, for example, to develop and to design these new landscapes, to develop this tools and systems that will live inside the metaverse. And the content and experience level, we're talking about applications and systems and social media, for example, a new social media for the metaverse, a new banking, for example, application for the, industry-specific application for the metaverse. That will also take place when it comes to the immersive technology. So huge opportunities for leaders and business innovators and maybe startup founders like yourselves. And you don't know until you see, until you imagine how this kind of revolution can take us to. That's it for now. Thank you so much. Appreciating your time. And hopefully it was useful.
So, Amer, that was good. You gave some numbers, and you also mentioned about the exponential growth, especially that we have 2021 to 2022. Awesome. Those are great numbers, I must say, almost 10 times. So I also want to get some more perspective from you, Amer. So as an HR technology expert, where do you think immersive technology can be helpful in the HR market?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Reji. That's a very, very good question. Actually, when it comes to HR and HR technology, there are so many ways and use cases that can be used or they can use, for example, the immersive technology, like, for example, in the case of interviews, in the case of learning and development, specifying, for example, the individual development plan, that, like, for example, the example that I have mentioned when it comes to manufacturing, where, for example, you give training to that huge, for example, machinery to your labor in order to get them that sense of feeling about how that machine works. So again, the sky is the limit. I mean, there is no sky even. There is no limit with the sky. You can think of creating a new world in HR and other than HR without even without imagination. And I wanted to ask you, Dr. Reji, what about the regulations? Do you think that we are ready about the regulations? What kind of regulations are needed to governance, for example, the metaverse and where we are right now?
Great. So sadly, I'll say that's where we lack. We are at least 10 years behind the technology in terms of regulations. But the good point was in May 2022, there was a very good progress that we made in regulations, and that is the Digital Regulation Cooperation Forum, DCRF. There we had many industry analysts, engineers, technologists, government people. That was held in partnership with Digital Consult. And there, some kind of a consensus was arrived at on what will be the future. So most importantly and significantly, what we need to do is in terms of permissions for, let's say, advertising and marketing. I briefly touched upon that in the presentation. In terms of restrictions in age, in every single movie you see 13 plus or 11 plus or parental consent is required. So those are the kind of permissions that we require. And third thing is health and safety regulations. It's a very debated topic on whether 5G is going to actually erode the health of human consciousness. It has never been really proved in scientific parlance, though many people have presented papers on this. So the more we move into technology, the more we move into metrics, which is broadcasted, we're also looking at health and safety. And another important thing is in terms of IoT devices. For a person like me, it's very easy to get into a device in seconds. So when the whole world is connected with IoT, hackers are going to make merry. So security, we're already facing a big issue. We can hear in the news, entire government sites getting hacked. This is an issue we'll have to really address. And what kind of data should companies really collect, ethically collect? Are companies entitled to know what I ate today? What are my ailments? That's another thing that is going to be really looked at in regulations. In terms of biometric and health data, that's another thing which really needs to do. Our biometric data reveals our digital identity. In India, we have the Aadhaar system. Most often in the news, I can hear news that Aadhaar database is hacked. The other news says it has not been hacked, everything is safe. So digital identity, because we can't change our fingerprints. They came with us and will remain with us in this physical body. So if you compromise your digital identity, that again is a big issue for the regulations. And lastly, I will say is intellectual property. How much of this data really belongs to whom? Who's the IP? Because in my company, one of the first things we look is someone infringing my company's IP? That's another issue that we'll have to really face and address. So in short, that's something on the regulations part of it. But continuing from your previous answer, Amer, is there any immersive technology developer in Jordan?
Yeah, I have seen many examples actually in the region where we have applied, or at least they have applied, the immersive technology. So for example, one of the companies in Jordan has actually, let's say, developed a mall, a digital mall to one of the biggest malls in Saudi. And that mall company has actually invested in that company and acquired part of it because they wanted to have their next level of, or their next branch of malls on the metaverse. They wanted to have the, for their consumers to have the ability to go and visit the malls. And not only that, can you imagine how economy sharing, or shared economy has actually put on the place in that idea? For example, they have given, let's say, these brands companies the ability to purchase or to acquire or even to rent places in that metaverse, for example, mall. All that's happening actually in the region, and people now started, or people will start to go and consume or will go and purchase items from that mall, for example, online. And yes, so I have seen not only application for the immersive technology, but also I have seen an investment that has taken place to enable and empower the industry when it comes to technology. Now I have that question for you, and I think everyone here is waiting to have the award, so we're not going to take much of your time. And so one question for you, Dr. Reji, is there any misconception or I would say over expectations from immersive technology and the way we're thinking of it? Because as I said, the sky is the limit, although there are so many ideas. But is there any over expectations that we don't like to expect or think of?
Sure, I'll just mention a few. One of the major misconceptions is that it's only for the gaming industry. That I think we broke that myth today. Second, very important is that people think VR discourages physical activity. People are couch potatoes, they sit and game whole day. Things could not be more wrong. The fact is, you're actually giving a mental and physical exercise to the entire body when you're playing even things like Fitbit Adventures or any other such game. When you immerse yourself in immersive technology, it exercises the human body much more. Every single muscle, every single nerve get exercised in this process. It gives a much better immersive physical conditioning and exercise to the human body. And also, a conception was it's untested technology. As I said, 1957, we've still been using immersive technologies. And as I said, I've worked in multiple sectors, and each and every sector, it could be airline, manufacturing, gaming, every single sector has been using this technology, but not many people have really immersed, pun intended, into it. So also as a follow-up, I wanted to ask you, are there any particular challenges in setting up business in immersive technology in this region?
Yeah, right. There are so many challenges that I can think of, especially in this region, for example. First, the one that I was just talking with my friend and colleague, Muhammad, and we were talking about imagination. The first challenge is in our brains, is the imagination and how ideas will be evolved and developed at that level to have that next level of everything, for example, in our life. The second thing is the capabilities of I would say, the manpower when it comes to the quantity and also when it comes to the quality. Other than that, there are so many maybe regulations that would control, like, for example, financial transactions and payment that we were talking about. Cloud, for example, is also a concern for data, privacy, and these kind of things. So mainly these are the challenge that I can think of right now. So one last question for you, Dr. Reji, please. Do you think of any examples that you have in mind when it comes to health tech, education tech, or education and media, when it comes to how, for example, we can use immersive technology with?
Already being used. So in terms of health tech, we can do remote surgeries. We had a case of an astronaut in space. He needed surgery. We were able to do surgery in the ISS. In terms of, again, continuing on health tech, we have small nano robots we introduce in the human body, which actually go and does a self-diagnosis inside the body. That is only possible with immersive technology and virtual reality. In terms of education, I think since I've spent so many years in the field of education, studying in multiple universities, this is something that many universities have been doing over time. In Stanford, for example, we have our own immersive labs in which we are able to understand a textbook. For example, we have a textbook, let's say Shakespeare. We're actually able to imbibe what Shakespeare wanted to show in the textbook. For us, it is not just a couplet, it's not just a rhyme. We're able to immerse and experience what the author wanted to convey in the textbook. So that's something, again, that is very, very challenging and encouraging. But before letting you go, Amer, I just wanted to know, you talked about some metaverse, I think in your presentation about metaverse consumer use cases. You talked about some enterprise use cases. Any examples? I'm very curious to know this.
Yeah, we talked about, for example, the manufacturing use case, and there are so many, for example, ideas and use cases in the education. I have seen schools, for example, in the region where they apply and employ, for example, the VR and AR in order to educate or have that next level of education, for example, to their students. And as you said, the operation, for example, which is very, very interesting, where medical operations can take place from one place in another place, that gives no limit actually to the world and to everyone. These are the use cases that I can think of.
Great. I think, Amer, we run out of time.
Yeah.
So I think it is from Amer and Dr. Reji signing off.
Yeah.
Good day to you.
Thank
and
you.
Have a beautiful experience ahead.
Appreciate it. Hope that wasn't boring. So thank you.
We can take a few questions from the audience if you want. 1, 2 questions from the audience.
Anybody? Yes.
We've got a mic in the middle, so if you have any questions, you can sort of walk up to the mic that's right here, right in the middle.
Thanks, Mr. Reji. Thanks, Amer, for the explanation. So I reflect on a couple of things. One, definitely the travel portion of it, which you talked about. I think there will be a significant impact on the carbon footprint that it will reduce. However, I would like to look on the disruptive side of the question as well. I think you already touched upon the digital screen presence for younger generation. So what is the kind of an impact do you see for the people going into this virtual world, not to have a physical activity as such? And the second portion of my question is, let's take an example of a tourism industry. Doesn't it show like this is going to be more disruptive for them? Because now if I can basically visualize, or if I can visit the place on a virtual world itself, and probably it gives me more feel of even touching certain objects which I'm not generally allowed when I go to the physical place. How does it play around? What are your views on those two areas?
I think, Amer, I'll go first. Very interesting questions. I must compliment you for that. So regarding the physical part of it, as I explained in the previous one, immersive experience is not sitting on the couch. Immersive experience is seeing, believing, understanding, and being in reality of all the physical senses. Incidentally, there are many more senses in the human body than sound, touch, and smell. You've heard about the other senses, extra perceptory senses. Those all can be also experienced in immersive. So the physical body gets a complete workout. In fact, there are many games itself. You talk the gaming industry, where you have to actually be present in the ground. The kind of workout that you get in, let's say, Fitbit Adventures is much, much more. You talked about a very sensitive point, that is carbon footprint. And VIRENXIA has taken all steps to ensure that this game of net zero, which is the buzzword now, and greenhouse gases, that is fulfilled. You talked a very interesting point. I really love that question on, will you visit a journey to a place when you get the full experience sitting immersively? Trust me, this was a survey which was conducted for me, and part of the survey, which was overwhelmingly what I'm going to tell you, is that when my experience of, let's say, a place like Machu Picchu in Peru, I experience sitting in an immersive environment, my desire to go to that places exponentially increases, because there is no physical being in that place in the physical reality, right? So the question is very interesting, but overwhelmingly everybody found that when I experience, let's say, Peru in my immersive environment with a complete scenario change, I will also like to go there. And I will go there with my family and friends. So it turns out to be a very good boon for the tourism industry. Amer, you want to add something on this?
I think you nailed it. Thank you so much. Do you still have any questions?
Yeah, I understand. I think what you're saying is more of, it is going to act as a promotion rather than as a disruption.
Firstly, you're saving the economy money, because everything, you talked about carbon, that itself is a money. Everything, time is money, that is one, you're saving on time. Secondly, in terms of understanding a place, you have a choice of, let's say, 10 places. You can actually home on to where you want to go because you had an immersive experience. So it gives value for money for the customer. Also, in addition to saving the GDP of the country overall, when you look at the overall perspective.
Hi, this is Gaurav. I came from India. Thanks for the knowledge and the presentation. So currently I work in the supply chain industry. So I wanted to understand how this immersive technology can help the supply chain industry, or it can improve, how it can improve the supply chain industry.
So maybe I'll take this. So in supply chain, we have various aspects of a supply chain. We have warehousing, we have transportation, we have order placing, we have advertising, all part of the supply chain infrastructure. In fact, if you go to SCM4, which we as a company are practicing right now, we are actually practicing immersive technology because there are many companies now in the world, in India especially, where you do smart warehousing. In smart warehousing, you can actually see the warehouse in an immersive environment without even going to that place. For example, I want to store 2,000 metric tons of chicken litter. Today, I have a choice of several people in my area, let's say Aurangabad. By getting a visual experience of an immersive technology, I'm able to see how is he stacking? Is he using the right bin model? Is he using the FIO principle? So I have a choice before even visiting the factory. It'll save me money, it'll save me time. Also, it leads to a GDP. As you can see, the GDP of every country is very dependent on transportation, which plays a significant amount in the economy. So I would say SCM is very central, and we in a company are practicing this in VIRENXIA. SCM, we are practicing SCM4, which is very much in dovetailing with immersive technology.
Yeah,
Amer?
last thing about supply chain management. So when you think of supply chain, maybe you think about manufacturing or let's say warehouse, yeah, and this is not the only way to think of supply chain management. Let's say retail, for example, and transportation. So when it comes to retail, which is very, very essential part of supply chain, when you take the e-commerce, for example, which is another level of the retail, and put it in the metaverse or in that immersive technology experience, you can imagine how that would help, for example. I mean, there is like from McKinsey also, they are saying 70% of the people who tried the metaverse, which is actually, let's take gaming as one of the ways to think of metaverse. 70% of the people who tried, for example, gaming have already purchased from these games. So you can think of how metaverse and general immersive technology can take the retail, transportation. I talked about designing, for example, machines and selling machines and training on the machines in a manufacturing factory, for example, to the next level. I hope I answered.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, it's more of a comment than a question. I remember my previous job, I was working in the elevators industry, and one of the main challenges that we had is having the final approvals on the finishes, which requires sometimes to take a couple of people from the client side to the factory, fly them over, all the way to the factory and let them have a tour there, and then they see the samples, and then they can choose there, which costing basically sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think with this technology, it's going to be really easy for them just to use the metaverse and use this technology and show them the samples without having to go there and go to the factory, which is saving cost and saving time. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Last question, I guess.
So I just want to thank you for the presentation. It was really good. And I had just one question, maybe for any of you guys, is given that this is new technologies for some people, and usually when we have even technologies that have been sitting in the world for like decades, as you mentioned, there is a learning curve that needs to happen for the consumers to start trusting this technology and going through it. So how do you think where we are from this learning curve and how we can increase the trust from consumers in retails or in other industries?
That's a good question.
Okay, I'll go first. Yeah. So thanks for the question. Very interesting again. So in the process, I can actually plot the curve where we are in terms of this technology. We have gone past the early adopters. It's already, as I said, 1957, 1982, and 2022. As Amer said, even in terms of the figures, these are cataclysmic change areas in this technology in terms of numbers too. We have gone past the early adoption and we are now in the integration phase. You know, in any technology, we go through multiple phases: early adoption, integration, maturation, and then decline. So we are there in the integration phase, and that is why we're getting these huge numbers, 12 and 120. I mean, it's beyond, it's broken the charts, like a vertical Charlie we do on the aircraft, where the rate of climb is 100%. So this is very interesting because this technology is suddenly coming to light. COVID especially was a very big factor which enabled immersive technology to come out of its cocoon. More and more companies are now forced to reveal what they have been researching inside. For example, Stanford has been doing this research since 1960, the Russians 1950. A lot of work is going on here. More and more universities, governments are now revealing what they have done in the past, because all this was classified technology. This was more used for war rather than anything else. Now governments are realizing you can use this technology for actually benefiting mankind. So you will find a lot of research paper coming. In fact, there's a haptic research paper we're working on. So a lot of work is going on. And in terms of trust, the more you adopt, you will have trust. For example, when color televisions, they first came in the market, before that we had black and white televisions. Initially, everybody thought color televisions, it won't be correct. More and more people started getting color televisions, the trust factor increased. For example, I was one of the first users of a mobile phone. In fact, in Kerala state, I was the first guy who purchased a mobile phone. Everybody viewed it as with a lot of suspicion, waste of money, you're spending so much of money. More and more people started using mobile phones. The trust factor increased, that the economy is also there. It actually is helping you. Trust factor increases. So I think economy, the trust comes with economy of scale. Amer?
I think that's fine. Did she answer you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's more about as well from student factors, so how we can build the trust from the ground up so that this technology can continue and develop as well.
We need people like you to build this trust quotient to take this ahead.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contribution. That was very interesting, wasn't it?